I discovered that my girlfriend had a secret relationship with my best friend. The story you are going to hear tonight honestly left me completely in silence because there are betrayals that break a relationship, but there are others that completely shatter your ability to trust anyone. Julian writes to us, and it goes like this. I never thought the two most important people in my life would end up destroying me at the same time. Even today, it is hard for me to talk about this without feeling ashamed, because part of me still feels stupid, naive, blind. My name is Julian, I am 32 years old, and for nearly 5 years, I had a relationship with a woman named Laura. Laura was literally the person I planned to marry. We lived together, shared expenses, planned to buy a house, and we even talked about having kids. And right alongside us, there was always Matteo, my best friend. Matteo and I had known each other since we were 14 years old. We grew up together, played soccer together, and skipped school together. He was literally the brother I never had. When he met Laura, the three of us became inseparable. And honestly, that made me happy, because I felt that the two people I loved most got along incredibly well. Matteo came over to the apartment constantly. We watched matches, drank beer, went out together, and we even traveled together several times. I never suspected a thing, not even a little bit. In fact, if anyone had even insinuated something to me, it probably would have upset me, because I trusted both of them completely. Now I realize that absolute trust can also be dangerous. Everything started to change about a year ago. Laura started to seem more distant with me, less affectionate, less present, but at the same time, closer to Matteo. And yes, I know how that sounds now, but at that time, I never thought about what was actually happening. I simply believed Laura was going through stress, work problems, or anxiety, the usual. Plus, Matteo was always there, helping her. He talked to her, listened to her, and gave her advice. Honestly, I saw that as a positive thing, until little details started, details that at the time seemed absurd. For example, Laura and Matteo had too many inside jokes, way too many. Sometimes they would look at each other and laugh without explaining anything, or they would finish each other's sentences, or they were constantly texting each other. When I asked what was going on, they both gave the same answer: nothing. And I believed them, because I never imagined that the people closest to me could do something like that to me. There was one specific night that I now remember constantly. The three of us went to a bar. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I saw something strange. Laura and Matteo stopped talking immediately upon seeing me. It was instantaneous, as if they had been talking about something they didn't want me to hear. I felt a strange discomfort, but I ignored it. And honestly, I think that's where the problem begins. When you love someone a lot, you learn to ignore your intuition. Over time, Laura started fiercely protecting her phone. She would turn it face down, and she even slept with it under her pillow. If I came near while she was typing, she would close the chats. She had never been like that. But every time I tried to talk about it, she reacted poorly. She told me I was being controlling, toxic, and insecure. I ended up feeling guilty for even suspecting anything. That destroyed me mentally because I started to question myself. I thought, maybe I really am exaggerating. And Matteo did exactly the same thing. He would tell me, "Bro, you're paranoid. Laura loves you. You're seeing things where there aren't any." Imagine that. My best friend calming me down, while he was probably already sleeping with my girlfriend. That still makes me sick. Everything exploded 4 months ago, and honestly, I feel like my life split into two from that day on. That Saturday, Laura told me she was going out with some friends. Matteo was supposedly going to visit his parents. I stayed home watching a UFC fight, but around 11 at night, I realized Laura had left her tablet logged in and active in the living room, and it started buzzing. Messages, a ton of messages. Normally, I would never check something like that. Never. But there was something strange. The screen only showed emojis, hearts, and a single sentence. "I miss you already." I felt a horrible void in my chest. I opened the conversation, and that's where my life ended. The conversation was with Mateo, my best friend. There were hundreds of messages, photos, videos, sexual messages, declarations of love, and plans together. And the worst part, they had been having a secret relationship for more than a year. A year. While I was organizing birthdays, while I was paying for trips, while I was inviting Mateo into my home, they were together behind my back. Because it is so easy. I remember that I literally dropped the tablet. When I read that, something inside me broke. Because it wasn't just an infidelity anymore. It was humiliation. It was cruelty. It was turning someone who trusted you into a joke. I waited for Laura to return, and when she walked into the apartment, she immediately knew something was wrong. I showed her the tablet. I will never forget her face. First she tried to deny it, then she cried, then she said she didn't know how it happened, and finally, she confessed everything. Yes, she was in love with Mateo, and Mateo was also in love with her. I remember I asked her, "Then why stay with me?" And her answer destroyed me. She said, "Because I didn't want to lose you." Imagine hearing that. The person who betrayed you saying they didn't want to lose you, as if you could keep someone while actively destroying their life. The cowardly truth. That same night, I called Mateo. He didn't answer. I texted him. Nothing. Finally, he showed up the next day, and honestly, I will never forget that conversation, because I expected guilt, shame, and regret, but Mateo seemed relieved, as if he could finally stop hiding. He told me he never planned to fall in love with Laura, that it just happened. Again, that damn phrase. It just happened. Honestly, I think that phrase is one of the most cowardly ones in existence, because secret relationships don't just happen. People make decisions, conscious decisions, lying, hiding, kissing, sleeping together, and looking you in the face pretending to be your friend. That does not occur accidentally. The worst came later, because I discovered that a lot of people suspected it. Friends, co-workers, even a friend of Laura's. And nobody told me anything. Nobody. That caused me to develop a horrible paranoia, because I felt like I was the only idiot in the whole situation. Honestly, I think that was the most humiliating part, feeling like everyone saw it except for me, reconstructing a life. After that, I broke up with Laura immediately, and I also cut off all relations with Mateo. I blocked numbers, social media, everything. But honestly, the psychological damage was massive. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety attacks. I became obsessed with reading old conversations, looking at photos, and reviewing memories, trying to find out exactly when they started lying to me. The worst part is that I started to question my entire life. Every trip, every outing, every time Mateo stayed over at my house, everything became suspicious retroactively. And honestly, that destroys your head, because you no longer know which memories were real and which ones were just an act. The hardest part to overcome wasn't losing Laura, it was losing Mateo. Because when a partner betrays you, it hurts. But when your best friend does it too, you feel like nobody is safe. That completely changes your way of seeing human relationships. Currently, they are still together. Yes, after destroying me, they are still together. And honestly, I don't know what to think about that. Part of me wants to hate them. Another part simply wants to forget them. But there are days where I still wonder if either of them ever truly loved me. Because honestly, I don't understand how you can emotionally destroy someone you care about. I am in therapy now, and slowly I am trying to rebuild my life. But there are still moments where I feel a massive rage, especially when I think about all the times I blindly trusted them. There is something deeply disturbing about discovering that the people closest to you were capable of lying to you for so long. Thank you for reading me. Julian. Wow. Honestly, this story left me feeling incredibly down, because here we are not just talking about an infidelity, we are talking about a double emotional betrayal. And honestly, I believe that losing a partner and a best friend at the same time can psychologically destroy anyone. Because Julian didn't just lose a relationship, he lost his sense of security, his trust, and probably his ability to believe in other people. And I want to make something very clear. Here, the cruelest part wasn't just the secret relationship, it was the humiliation, the messages actively mocking him. That completely changes the story. Because it was no longer just confused people falling in love. There was malice and cruelty. And honestly, that seems horrible to me. I also want to talk about something crucial, the manipulation. Notice how both Laura and Mateo managed to make Julian doubt himself. That happens a lot. People start to suspect something, and instead of telling the truth, the cheaters make them feel crazy, calling them insecure, toxic, or paranoid. That psychologically destroys a person because they end up completely distrusting their own intuition. Honestly, I think a lot of people watching this video have gone through something similar. Now, I want to ask you all a tough question. Do you think a friendship can ever be recovered after something like this? Because honestly, I don't know. There are betrayals that completely change how you view a person forever. And another even more complicated question. Do you think Laura really loved Julian? Because she said she didn't want to lose him. But how can you love someone while mocking them behind their back? Honestly, I have a very hard time understanding that dynamic. I also want to touch on another major topic, the number of people who suspected it. This happens a lot in stories of infidelity. The people around them notice things, but nobody says anything. And honestly, I want to know what you think. Should friends intervene when they know someone is being cheated on? Or is it simply none of their business? Because honestly, that debate is highly polarizing. Now I want to read your thoughts in the comments. If you discovered that your partner and your best friend were having a secret relationship, what would you do? Could you ever forgive either of them? Who do you think betrayed Julian more, Laura or Mateo? And the toughest question, what hurts more? The infidelity itself, or discovering that you were the only one who couldn't see the truth? I'll read your responses in the comments. And if you have stories you want to share anonymously, feel free to send them in. Because honestly, some of the worst wounds come directly from the people we trust the most.